Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared, and just like I said in a previous video, I'm going to be doing a video about the Dead Sea being healed, because it looks like that's already starting to happen. Um, this is something that I've been wanting to look into in depth because I've been aware of this for a while. I've seen a couple different things like on YouTube and I think on Israel 365, but I haven't dove into it until now, and it's quite stunning. Okay, and there are articles, not a few, that discuss this and show how many Jews are viewing this event that's taking place. So before I get into those articles and show you what's happening to the Dead Sea, the area around it, because there is fresh water, there are fish, there are flowers, there are all sorts of things going on, and it's only been recently. Okay. In fact, before I forget, I better pull up my Second Coming timeline. If you're new to the channel, it's not a future timeline, it's a timeline of what has already happened. Analyzing different important events, both in the church and in the world and in society and in space and in nature and on and on and on and on. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the Dead Sea and specifically the Dead Sea being healed. Before we get into those articles, I want to go to the original source of why this is important, how it relates to the second coming. I guarantee 99% of you already know, but we should review it anyway. Now, before I do that, though, I put out a poll that the question was, if you're subscribed to my channel, which denomination, which denomination do you belong to? And of course, you got a few, smart aleck comments like, "Oh, I don't belong to a denomination. I belong to Christ." Of course, that's assumed. But if you go to one of these churches, that's what I'm trying to find out. And not surprisingly, the vast majority are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But the reason why I did this poll is, I've received comments from time to time that feel awfully polygamy or fundamentalist, or from another like Latter-day Saint break off, right? And it only let me put 5 total. Okay. So I did the biggest ones that I'm aware of. Community of Christ is definitely the second biggest. And then I did Church of Christ Temple Lot. They're the ones that own um, the land where the first temple of the 24 temple complex was going to be built. We got the FLDS, and then we have the Apostolic United Brethren. These are the ones, when you watch Sister Wives, let's see. I'm sure you guys know Sister Wives. You've heard about it. It's on TLC. Last I checked, they live in Vegas. I don't know if they've moved since that time, but it's Cody and his 4 wives right here. And it looks like Robin has gained a little bit of weight, but that's okay. It happens. What, honey? Janelle left. Oh, and Janelle left. Well, she okay. She's here on the thing, but I guess she would be because whatever. Okay, so these guys, they belong to that. So I got a feeling that there were people that believe in the church, or they believe in like the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith, but we're at odds with like some of our pretty, like, our doctrine that's pretty clear in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I just wanted to see if anybody else was from anywhere else. And it looks like, if people are answering honestly, there's a little sliver here of I wish I could tell how many precisely. All it tells you is 1,000 votes, and then it just shows you percentage, and that's it. So a tiny percentage is from Community of Christ, and then an even larger one is from Apostolic United Brethren. So that's interesting. I've wanted to like find out if there's any other Christian denominations outside of the Latter-day Saint movement. That's what it's referred to um, in secular in the secular view. And I don't know. I know that they come across the channel because I see their comments, but I just wonder if there are any other subscribers from any other churches, maybe just because they enjoy watching the signs of the times, even though they don't accept our doctrine. Okay, anyway, so let's move on. Okay, so this is what we read recently. This is from Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith, page 286. He's talking about the second coming, and he says, Judah must return, which that has happened, meaning returning to Israel. And then he says, Jerusalem must be rebuilt, and that has happened. Um, so the Jews have returned to the land of Israel, and then there was the 1967 war, the Six-Day War, where Israel gained control of Jerusalem. And obviously, that's really important when it comes to prophecy. Okay, and the temple built, and there's varying opinions about this. Sometimes I kind of go back and forth whether I think it's going to be the third temple that the Jews are trying to build, or if it's going to be the BYU Jerusalem Center. And again, I always have to do these little disclaimers. The church is not going to go against the Israeli government. There is not, from what I have found, any sort of agreement that the center cannot be turned into the temple. The only agreement is that we do not proselytize. That is it. But look, I've done a playlist right here. What are we at right now? 26 videos talking about the BYU Jerusalem Center. I've looked at the dimensions of the center and compared it to Solomon's Temple and the Second Temple. I've looked at the architecture of it. I've gone into the history of it. I've gone into what Jeffrey R. Holland has said about it, which he's said something very, very interesting about the future of this. And there's always people, always, especially the ones that have gone to the BYU Jerusalem Center as students, that will say, my professor said that this is not going to be a temple. It's not in the right location. It wasn't built in blah, 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 blah. I know what your professor said. That doesn't mean that the Lord, in some kind of way, can't turn this into a temple. Okay? I'm not going to go into all the different details for the 5 billionth time. I have 26 videos about it. I've thought about it quite a bit. And I've pulled out a lot of information, and I do think that this is a possibility. And we're not going to break Israeli law or anything like that. So everyone just chill out. Just chill out. In my point of view, this could very well fulfill that prophecy. We know that in the sister city, New Jerusalem, there's going to be a 24 temple complex. I have also talked about that at length. And oh my gosh, we're going off on this. And I have a playlist about that as well. In fact, I have two. I have one about the Independence Visitor Center, where we know this is a fact that the Independence Visitor Center was built to be part of the 24 temple complex. So watch this playlist if you want to know about that. There's a temple in waiting already in New Jerusalem. I've also done a playlist about New Jerusalem. So I have 3 playlists that relate to this topic. I have a playlist called New Jerusalem, a playlist called Independence LDS Visitor Center, and then BYU Jerusalem Center. From my point of view, and I'm not telling you what to do, but I think that this very well could fulfill that prophecy, even though it's not currently being used as a temple. Things can change very quickly, as I hope you know. Okay, so going back. Judah must return, check. Jerusalem must be rebuilt, check. And the temple, maybe. And water come out from under the temple, and the waters of the Dead Sea be healed. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. Why did Joseph Smith say that? Well, he didn't just come up with it himself. It's not a new doctrine. If you go to Ezekiel 47, starting in verse 8, it says, Then said he unto me, This is Ezekiel talking to the angel. These waters issue out toward the east country and go down into the desert and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed. Okay, so here's Jerusalem, east country, and then almost like directly east, you hit the north shore of the Dead Sea. Okay, so we're talking about this right here. The temple, um, here's the western wall. The temple would be right here. If he's referring specifically to the third temple that they're trying to build, and it faces east, right? So it faces toward the Mount of Olives, but it also faces towards this area right here, the north shore of the Dead Sea. Um, you may be interested to know I've done a number of videos, and this isn't new information. I'm not saying like a lot of people already know this, but I've done I've done a handful of videos comparing Jerusalem and the Dead Sea to Salt Lake and the Great Salt Lake. Um, for example, I thought I had it up. Well, anyway, if you just do a search on my channel, you look up Dead Sea or Salt Lake. Um, they're going through some pretty similar things right now. Like both of them are drying up, for example, and behaving very similarly. And then I've done just like a fun little video where I compared the geography as though like if you took the lands that were given to the 12 tribes, I kind of did like a fun little overlay over Salt Lake to see, oh, if you like put it over here, where would be Benjamin, where would be Ephraim, and so on and so forth. So you can look that up if you want to. I thought it was pretty fun to do. Anyway, and it shall come to pass that everything that liveth, which moveth, whithersoever the rivers shall come, shall live. And there shall be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come thither, for they shall be healed, and everything shall live whither the river cometh. So keep that in mind. Where the river comes, there will be life. Okay? This is happening. This is happening right now. It's been happening since 2016. I'm about to show you. And it shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from En Gedi, even unto En Egalim. They shall be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their kinds, as the fish of the great sea, exceeding many. But the miry places thereof, and the marshes thereof, shall not be healed. They shall be given to salt. So this is interesting right here, because it's not saying that the entire thing is going to be healed. There's still going to be these places, these quote unquote miry places and marshes. So I guess it's not clear exactly how much, which may be an important detail. I would assume the majority of it would be, would be healed, but I don't know. Okay, and then 12. And the river upon the bank thereof, on the side and on that side, shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. It shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, according to their waters. They issued out of the sanctuary. So that's the temple. And the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine. Okay. So Joseph Smith just reaffirms this, that the Dead Sea has to be healed, and here's some of the details of it before Christ comes. Now, there's kind of two parts to this prophecy, from what I can tell. There is a spiritual aspect to it, as far as not a literal healing of the Dead Sea, but if you were to think of the Dead Sea as like the world and being spiritually dead, not having the ordinances of the gospel, dead in that sense, that it's going to be healed and it's going to come from the temple. I'm about to show you a talk that kind of goes over that. So there's that aspect of it, and it's for that reason that when you look at, let's see, what was this? Oh, this is the talk that I'm going to read. Well, I'll read that first, and I'll show you some pictures. Okay, so this is Dale G. Renlund, 2018, which is a very interesting time to be writing this talk. I did a search in the Scripture Citation Index, for the term Dead Sea. And it's only come up 18 times. That's between General Conference and the Journal of Discourses and the scriptural teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith. That is very little. That is very, very few times. And all these other times, it's mostly talking about like the Dead Sea Scrolls, um, or it's just kind of like talking about the landscape of Israel. But there's only two times that it's talked about in the context of Ezekiel's prophecy. One is for what we just read from Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith. The other one is this one. It's this talk. Those are the only two times, unless they talk about it, but they don't say the Dead Sea. Like maybe there's some other talk and they just reference just the scripture. I haven't gone that far into it. So just off of the term Dead Sea, only 18, and only two reference the prophecy. So, Dale G. Renlund. If you have prayed for any of these blessings, participate in family history and temple work. As you do so, your prayers will be answered. When ordinances are performed on behalf of the deceased, God's children on earth are healed. Okay, here we go. No wonder President Russell M. Nelson, in his first message as president of the church, declared, quote, your worship in the temple and your service there for your ancestors will bless you with increased personal revelation and peace and will fortify your commitment to stay on the covenant path, end quote. An earlier prophet also foresaw blessings for both the living and the dead. Okay, Ezekiel. And he references Ezekiel chapters 40 all the way through 47. A heavenly messenger showed Ezekiel a vision of a temple with water gushing out of it. Ezekiel was told, quote, these waters issue out and go down into the desert and go into the Dead Sea, and the waters shall be healed. And it shall come to pass that everything that liveth, which moveth, whithersoever the rivers shall come, shall live, for they shall be healed, and everything shall live, whither the river come. Okay, now, two characteristics of the water are noteworthy. First, though the small stream had no tributaries, it grew into a mighty river. So, you get that, right? So, the source of the water producing the river, no tributaries. It's coming out of the temple. Okay, out of the temple. So, I guess the way that he's looking at this is if you strictly read it, it's like that is the source of the water. It's not from rain. It's not from the water table. It's not from springs, things like that. So, first, though the small stream had no tributaries, it grew into a mighty river, becoming wider and deeper the farther it flowed. Something similar happens with the blessings that flow from the temple as individuals are sealed as families. Meaningful growth occurs going backward and forward through the generations as sealing ordinances weld families together. Second, the river renewed everything that it touched. The blessings of the temple likewise have a stunning capacity to heal. Temple blessings can heal hearts and lives and families. So that's interesting. And I've talked about, I feel like there's more symbolism to it, but this is just gospel according to Jared Davies. It's not anything that I've found anywhere. But when you think about the temple representing the presence of God, and if you and me are fish, right? Because in the New Testament, it's all about fishing and Peter being a fisherman and Christ fishing, fishing for the souls of men. If we are fish in this metaphor, this symbolism, we know where we came from. We came from the presence of God, and we ended up in a dead sea, and we all died. We're all dead. And so, with a river coming from the temple, from the presence of God, with water that fish can live in, it comes down and then it heals the sea. And it provides a highway, so to speak, for us, the fish that come back to life, to swim back and go back to the temple. Another interesting thing is, in one sense, a river. A lot of times, rivers are compared to time because they flow in one direction, and so I've had this idea that because we are able to, like those fish, go back to the presence of the Father, and we know that the Father is essentially above time. It seems like he's literally in some kind of physics sense, scientific, metaphysical sense. He is above time. When you're going through the temple, you kind of go in a linear fashion, but then you end in the celestial room, and you just stay there. I think that kind of represents being above time. But those uh, those dead fish, they stay at the end of the river. They can't go back. They can't go back up the stream. And when you think about Christ, what he does is he's able to, in some kind of way, go back up the stream and forgive our sins essentially and pay for them. Something that nobody can do. Nobody can do that. Um, and so it's an interesting thing, that it's very possible that Satan, his followers, maybe even telestial or terrestrial people, will not be able to rise up above time to where the Father is, but they'll continue to experience time maybe the way that we do here on Earth. Because if you're above time, it puts you in in like a position where you can edit. Okay. I don't do much editing with my videos, but like you can think of it like you lay out the timeline on your video, and you can go through, you can go back, you can go forth, you can make edits. But if you're like in the video, so to speak, you can't control that. You're in the video. You can't do anything. You just go you keep going along according to the video. So anyway, there's a lot to that. Okay, so two different ways that this seems to be fulfilled. This is Ezekiel prophecy. One is how Dale G. Renlund said that in the spiritual sense, it has to do with covenants, has to do with being sealed. And then, secondly, it does seem like it's literally going to be fulfilled based on what Joseph Smith said and what is actually happening right now, which seems to have started in 2016. Okay. Now, um, one thing before we get to the literal aspect, you may or may not know, and it's my understanding. Um, I didn't look up any sources, but I'm pretty sure I've heard this before, that the reason why our temples have some of them have, I don't know, I don't think all of them have reflecting pools. I'm not sure, but you have reflecting pools, and then if not that, they at least have some kind of water feature, usually a fountain. This is the Mesa, Arizona temple. In the case of this temple, it has a reflecting pool right here on the north side, and then over on the east side, toward the visitor center right there, there's like a waterfall that kind of starts. Like you see this wall right here. It's like um, it's basically along the wall, kind of like where the stairs would be here, but over on this side. So the Mesa, Arizona temple has both. Here's a few other examples. This is the Rome, Italy temple. And in this case, it looks like a river. And I'm pretty sure that's intentional. I don't know which way the Rome, Italy temple faces, but you have this almost as though there's a river coming out from under the temple. Here's the Albuquerque temple. Wait, is it the Albuquerque temple? Let me see. Rome, Madrid. Let's see. Yeah, this is the Albuquerque temple, which I really dig the architecture. I like it. Anyway, in front of the entrance, you have this fountain right here. This is the Newport Beach, California temple, and it has both kind of a river-like or stream-like feature right here with these like two fountains that are connected, which is really neat, really pretty, very beautiful. Um, Here is me at the Bountiful Temple. This was the day that we got married, and on the east side of the Bountiful Temple, it has this kind of cascading waterfall type thing with a fountain up here, as though water's coming out from under the temple. Um, and then here's one of my marriage photos. This is probably my favorite one. Although I just, I did not choose to do this. This looks really bad. I was told to do this, but I'm not like forcing my will upon her and tying her hands behind her. That's the only thing I don't like about this. This is what I was told to do. And it looks nice because her arms are like pretty right here, and it's nice, but I'm not a dominator, okay? I'll have you know. I was just doing what I was told. So Bountiful Temple. Here's the Madrid Temple. This is a picture I took on my mission because I was at the Madrid MTC. Go there, and then I served in the Barcelona mission. But it's a very beautiful temple, by the way, both on the outside and the inside. And in this case, it has this fountain right here, and yeah, I think this is on the east side of the temple. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, let's see. And then here's the view that we had from the MTC building. It's actually like a mixed use building. Um, there's like housing for temple patrons, like people that come to like a hostel type thing. But anyway, this is the view that I had from my room. And this really helped me through the MTC because I was really discouraged about the language. And there was, there's stresses as you're going through the MTC. It's like a boot camp. But it was always nice at night to look out of my window and be able to see this. It's just, oh my gosh. Oh, and look, there's more fountains down here. Sorry, I don't have a perfect memory. Okay. That's why we need to write things down and take pictures. There's a fountain on this side too, but there's one on this other side. So, okay, cool. Okay. And then, the BYU Jerusalem Center. Okay. If my theory is correct, then I went to Google, and you know how, like, when you type in a restaurant or store and it has photos, I went through all these different photos, and this is what I was able to find. There's this fountain. I don't know where this is. I don't know if it's in a courtyard or if it's on the side of the temple. I mean, the center. I don't know. There's a Israeli cat right there. Don't know if he's Jewish or Muslim or Christian, or LDS. But here's a fountain right there. There's one that seems to be on the inside. Okay, I don't know if that would really count. And then somebody put this picture. This doesn't look like the BYU Jerusalem Center to me. I don't know if this is near there or if it's part of the grounds. I don't know. So if you've been there, um, don't tell me about what your professor said about how it's impossible. Tell me what this is and if this is part of the center's property. Okay, so if it is, if then here you have water features. Not so much this one, but this one and potentially this one that could fulfill that role, the symbolic role of what the temple is. Okay, now let's move on to the literal fulfillment of this prophecy. So we're looking at Israel 365. This was written by Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz, and in the earlier part of my channel, I actually interviewed him because I did a video where I did a compilation of like all the preparations that they're making for the third temple, and it went viral. So many people watched that video, and I guess somehow it reached Israel 365. I'm sure that I was driving a lot of traffic to their website. They seemed pretty happy about it, and they reached out to me, and then I did an interview with them, and then he put our interview on Israel 365. If you want to check out that interview, okay, it's right here. I'll put this in the description below. Warning, this is back when I looked like the yellow M&M, this guy right here. So, but I'm doing better now. I've grown my look at it. Look at that. Look at me. Okay, this is why I'm going to the gym. I'm going to be doing it after this video. So he's basically a journalist with Israel 365. We had a great chat. I plan to reach out to more Jewish people, maybe even some Muslims, and do some more interviews because it's always fun to talk to these other religions and connect, build bridges. He was really cool. So, uh, okay, so he wrote this article. Okay, fulfillment of Dead Sea prophecy has begun. This is July 27th of 2016 that he wrote the article. And what's interesting about that is when we go to the timeline here, here's the year right here. Let me, here, I'll zoom in. Here's the year in column B. Okay, so President Nelson became prophet. You see right here on the left, he became prophet the 14th of January, 2018. So this started occurring, uh, according to this reporting date, just a couple years before President Nelson becomes prophet. Okay. And what's so special about President Nelson? Like, do I need to tell you? Probably not. But when we look at the prophet tracker, this is similar to the phrase tracker. I've looked at all the presidents of the church, regardless of whether they were president at the time or not, just the talks that I have access to from the Scripture Citation Index. And I basically just tallied the number of talks where they use these words and phrases. And the first one here is Second Coming. Compare President Nelson with 22 to the rest of them. The only person that comes close is Wilford Woodruff. Everybody else, to my surprise, is like on average, if you average it out, probably like 3 at most. Some people don't even say it at all, surprisingly. Now, this is just in general conference, but Ezra Taft Benson didn't say it at all. George Albert Smith, Heber J. Grant, Lorenzo Snow, Lorenzo Snow, John Taylor only once. So the fact that this prophecy seems to be at least initiated just a couple years. Well, not even a couple years because this is July, so only like 1.5 years before President Nelson becomes prophet. That's interesting. That is very interesting. So let's read some of this. Sorry, it's going to be a lot of reading because there's a lot of things to. Whoa, 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 whoa. There's a lot of things to consider. Almost 10 times saltier than the ocean, nothing can live in the Dead Sea's hypersaline environment, just like the Great Salt Lake. The only thing that lives in the Great Salt Lake is brine shrimp, or in other words, sea monkeys. Have you ever seen sea monkeys before? Well, I'll just do brine shrimp. Brine shrimp. um, I like them. You can get these like at toy stores. They have like these. It's like an ant farm where you can have. They call them sea monkeys. And there are these little disgusting creatures right here, kind of horrifying to look at up close, but they're kind of cute, when it's not up close. This is the only thing that can live in the Salt Lake, okay? And it's the same is probably true of the Dead Sea. I'm not sure, or so scientists thought until recently. Scientific research has proved the existence of life at the bottom of the sea, but due to a unique set of circumstances, signs of life have begun appearing on its very shores, precisely as it is written in the book of prophets. Uh, I think what he's referring to there, the way that Jews divide the um, Old Testament, they divide it into parts, and one part of it is the Nevi'im, which means prophets. So I think that's what he's referring to. A young woman on a nature hike was shocked recently when she discovered freshwater ponds with fish on the shores of the Dead Sea. Samantha Siegel, a Jewish woman living in Jerusalem, often takes trips to the desert and the ancient body of water. Now, she has a website, or she has a YouTube channel. She doesn't really do anything with it. Only 834 subscribers. This is like the one video that looks like it talks about it. So it's this girl right here. I'm gonna reach out to her. I'm gonna see if I can interview her. That would be really cool. So this is her video on YouTube about it. Okay, on a recent visit, she encountered an incongruous sight with powerful implications, a prophecy appearing before her eyes that seemed to contradict the laws of nature. The Dead Sea is, as its name implies, dead, more than 400 meters below sea level. It is the lowest point on dry land. On Earth, on all of Earth. No life can exist in its ultra salty waters, and its shores are coated with a thick layer of salt that kills any plant. Its inhospitality has been documented for centuries. A mosaic on the floor of a church in Medeba, Jordan, showing a map of Byzantine pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land, illustrates this. It features a picture of fish swimming down the Jordan River and then turning around once they arrive at the waters of the Dead Sea. So I guess they don't like it down there. The Bible, however, describes a very different picture of the region. Lot, right, Abraham and Lot. Lot looked out on the valley where the Dead Sea is now and saw an incredibly fertile and well-watered region. Here's a quote, Genesis 13:10. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere. For Hashem, which is the Lord, so where before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of the Lord. The Bible relates that the landscape changed when the fire and brimstone destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah turned the valley into a wasteland. Indeed, people who visit the Dead Sea today would find it difficult to envision a garden in the arid region. Well, how about we look at that? Let's look at the photos. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look very hospitable, does it? It's like all completely barren over there. Okay, there's some more of it. Nothing but salt water and rocks and sand, except for like these places, I guess, where um, trees were planted artificially. Okay, yeah, not so great. Okay, even more perplexing. Yeah, even more perplexing are the messianic prophecies that water will flow east from Jerusalem into the Dead Sea, and these bitter waters will fill up with fish, and the surrounding desert will be teeming with life. I'm going to show you something about the surrounding area that we were just looking at, because some of that has changed in a pretty dramatic way. Okay, and keep this in mind. Okay, this is a Jewish writer. This is a Israel 365. It's kind of like an outreach company to it's like a Jewish outreach to Christians to basically. It seems like one of their missions is to kind of like get Christians on the side of Israel and build bridges and stuff like that. So that's one reason why they were interested in talking to me. So, but think about them looking at this from a Jewish perspective. You know that they know that this has to do with when Messiah comes, and for us, we know that it's going to be Christ when He comes at His second coming. They're being prepared. Okay, their minds are being prepared for the second coming, essentially. Okay, um, they would view it as the first coming, and they have a different idea of Messiah, but their minds, nevertheless, are being prepared. And this is one way. We've talked about many other ways on the channel before. Okay, then said he unto me, okay, this is Ezekiel 47, 8 through 9. I'm not going to read that because we already read that. The water level at the Dead Sea has been receding at the fantastic rate of up to 1 meter every year. Oh my gosh. This is due to water being diverted from the Jordan River for agricultural purposes and evaporation caused by the Dead Sea mineral works. The dropping water level has led has led to sinkholes appearing on the shores of the Dead Sea. On a visit to the arid region, Siegel discovered that many of these pools have been filling up with sweet fresh water and, even more incredibly, fish. The proof is undeniable. Siegel produced a video in which fish are clearly seen swimming on the shores of the Dead Sea, and she films herself swimming in a large pool surrounded by green plants. And we're about to see some of that in just a second. Fresh water at the Dead Sea is a clear example of how the prophets were able to see things that remained hidden from scientists for thousands of years. In 2011, a team of researchers from Ben Gurion University in the Negev, which is the desert down there, sent divers to the floor of the Dead Sea. This endeavor posed serious technical difficulties as the super saline environment renders regular scuba gear inoperable. It was the first time such a dive had ever been made, and what they discovered was astounding. The researchers discovered huge craters on the seafloor, 15 meters across and 20 meters deep. That's quite the crater. Okay. Fresh water was flowing from these craters, which were carpeted with mats of microorganisms, showing that the Dead Sea was not entirely dead. The beginnings of the prophecy are in place, waiting to spring forth. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this biblical prophecy appearing in plain sight is, as Siegel stated in her video, this is a big deal, and no one is really talking about it. And yeah, because that I think that's kind of how things go. When prophecy is fulfilled, it's really only those that have eyes to see, ears to hear, those that are looking for it. It doesn't normally happen in really big, obvious ways. That just seems to be the case. Maybe sometimes, yeah, but most of the time, no, 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 no. So here's a video here. You can watch this. I'll put all these links in the description below. You'll have to come to this article and then go down and click on the video. So July 20 or the 27th of July 2016. One day later, another video. This is by Ariella Mendelowitz. You'll never guess what the Dead Sea and a woman's body have in common. Okay, now this is interesting. Check this out. Okay, just last week, Samantha Siegel, a Jerusalem based artisan baker, stumbled upon a miraculous discovery: the existence of freshwater ponds on the shores of the Dead Sea filled with fish swimming through its waters. For Siegel, the evidence of living creatures meant more than just a shocking phenomena, it meant the fulfillment of Ezekiel's prophecy. Again, not going to read that again. But the presence of fish, a symbol of a return to life in a barren place, struck an even deeper chord with Siegel. That of the direct connection between the Dead Sea's rejuvenation and the prophesied return of woman's glory. Now, this is interesting because in the church lately, there's been a lot of things that have revolved around women, right? For example, uh, uh, witnesses to a baptism, it can now be not just priesthood holders, but it can include women, it can include young women. Um, President Nelson has really been focused on women's role in bringing in large numbers of people into the church because, according to President Kimball's prophecy, which President Nelson is referring to these women, you right now, that to the degree that you remain separate in happy ways from the world, the good women of the world are going to be attracted to the church and bring their families along with them, right? There's a lot. President Eyring's talk in 2020, I think it was October 2020. It's called Sisters in Zion. He identified this generation of women. These women, their daughters and granddaughters are going to be the ones to build the society that welcomes Christ when he returns, and will join with will join with Enoch's the city of Enoch, right? So this is interesting as we're reading this and her interpretation of what's happening with the Dead Sea, okay, and connecting it to women. Samantha started out by explaining the important position of Israel in relation to the planet as compared to the human body. When you look at the globe, Israel lies at the belly of the world, she told Breaking Israel News. So let's see. She's probably going to explain it in just a second, but let's zoom out. I don't know. Okay, let's see what she means. Maybe she'll explain it. When you look at the globe, okay, wait. Within the Holy Land exists the lowest place on earth, the Dead Sea. Siegel drew a connection between the biblical body of water in a woman's womb, saying, quote, just as the Dead Sea is the deepest spot within earth, so to the woman's womb is the deepest point within her. And we know, one thing one phrase that's been used is that as members of the church and in all of us, we are all basically gods in embryo, right? Let's see if I can find that. LDS, gods in embryo. Yeah, right here. Let's see. Where does this come from? So this is chapter 1, teachings of Spencer W. Kimball. Oh, of all people. We were just talking about him. He taught that the gospel is, quote, a way of life, the plan of personal salvation, and is based upon personal responsibility. It is developed for man, the offspring of God. Man is a God in embryo and has in him the seeds of godhood, and he can, if he will, rise to great heights. So, yeah, that's pretty fitting there, Samantha. Because again, we were just talking about the symbolism of the Dead Sea being the world and being in this mortal state where we're all spiritually dead, right? So that's interesting. She's talking about the Dead Sea, and in this case, it's like a womb. In we have the gods in embryo in that are in a fallen and dead state. Okay, yet a point of irony is raised by such a comparison. The womb was created with the ability to create and nourish life, while the Dead Sea, with its heavy salted content, a result of God's curse after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis, completely inhibits and prevents life. Refusing to be dismayed by such a paradox, the Chicago born mother explained to Breaking Israel News that it is exactly this irony that makes the appearance of life amid the desolation even more miraculous. Well, and see, here's another thing to it. We know that the second coming is compared to a birth. You don't know when the baby's going to come out, but you know that it's happening. You know that a woman is in labor. So that's like another aspect to this. Quote, with the renewal of life in the Dead Sea, as evidenced by the teeming fish, there's a strong message that the Jordan Valley will once again be as God's garden. It will return to the status it once had prior to the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah that transformed the beautiful valley into a wasteland, she said. Siegel then turned to discuss the symbolism behind the reawakening of the once empty waters as a direct metaphor for the transformation of the female status in messianic times. God's original intention when he created the world was for women to be man's equal in all aspects of life. But with Adam and Eve's sin of disobeying their only commandment and eating from the tree of knowledge, womankind was doubly cursed by being the receiving end of man's animosity and being reliant upon her husband to sustain her. Uh, there's more. It's gonna be too much of a tangent. Maybe we'll come back to that sometime. Of course, in our church, we do believe that men and women are equal, but there's very interesting, deep things to look at in regards to man and woman and the eternities and their eternal nature and what they really represent. I mean, you could go really deep with this. So, anyway, if you want to read the rest of it, I'll put this in the description below. Okay. Um, oh, by the way, I was going to say it was through Israel 365 that they set me up with Rabbi Gerfing. This is him right here. He's an Orthodox Jew, although he doesn't look like it right here. He's an Orthodox Jew. He's in Israel, originally from New York, but he's been living there for 50 years. And for 30 years, it took him 30 years to complete this project called the People's Talmud. And here he is in the Jerusalem Post. And he's introduced me to this thing. So the Talmud is essentially, if you don't know what it is, it's a uh, really it's a commentary on what's called the oral Torah or the Mishnah. Okay, the Mishnah is the oral Torah. So it's a collection of all these kind of like opinions and interpretations by rabbis throughout the ages. Well, up until a certain point, because it was written. When was it written? I think it was after the Romans destroyed the temple. It was like the centuries after that. I can't remember the exact dates, but there's two. There's the Jerusalem Talmud and the Babylonian Talmud. And so this is a way, it's not our doctrine, of course, but this is a way if you want to learn more about Judaism and how they view things and the way that they interpret things, you can look to the Talmud. And what you do on his website, on the right side, it says home, and then you click on these three bars, and then there's these different things. And the main one would be search. You can search by listings, categories, and he basically makes it so that for people that are not Jewish, they can understand what the Talmud is saying. So this may be a good resource for you if you're studying Judaism, if you're wanting to understand them better. So anyway, I meet with him every other week, and it, it's like the opportunity of a lifetime. It's really cool. Okay, so yeah, so Samantha Siegel, I'll see if I can get her on. Okay, now we are in 2018, October 2018. President Elson has now become president of the church by this point. Ezekiel's end of days vision revealed. Dead Sea coming to life. And this one is by Eliana Rudi, which it's basically the same as I think it's the same as this one. I can't remember. Here's a picture of it. You can see the fish right here. Okay. For those who have visited the lowest point on the face of the earth, Ezekiel's end of days prophecy of the Dead Sea coming to life seems impossible. Wait, I think I may have messed up, potentially. Yeah, because she essentially. Hold on. Hold on. I may have closed out of that other one. Gosh dang it. Let me read this one first. The so-called Dead Sea is the lowest navigable point on the globe, more than 400 meters below sea level. In recent years, the sea has been shrinking and thousands of sinkholes have been opening up. Some contain sweet fresh water in which fish can live. It is a sign of the times when the Dead Sea finally comes to life. It is Ezekiel's prophecy unfolding. So, according to Israel 365, but I guess more specifically, according to, it doesn't put the name here, Video Manager. I don't know. No, that's to go watch videos. I don't know who wrote this. Anyway, according to the person writing this is a sign. This is it. This is happening. Oh, okay. I thought this was a whole article. This just takes you to a video. So, okay. So there's that. Okay. Eliana Rudi, Ezekiel's end of days vision revealed, Dead Sea coming to life. For those who have visited the lowest point on the face of the earth, Ezekiel's end of days prophecy of the Dead Sea coming to life seems impossible, yet recently scientists have been shocked to discover. Wait, this. I'm so sorry. I had it clear in my head. Okay, whatever. Shocked to discover that sinkholes appearing around the sea are quickly filling up with fish and other forms of life previously unseen in the inhospitable region. Speeding atop the water, salt water playfully splashing each smiling person on the boat. Each individual's eyes are wide open, despite the stinging salt. Nobody wants to miss a second of the beautiful Israeli sunrise. The multi-sensory experience makes everyone feel so alive they begin to question why the body of water upon which they are riding can possibly be called the Dead Sea. Okay. The Dead Sea is anything but dead, he said, calling it the eighth wonder of the world. Bedain has witnessed fish in Dead Sea sinkholes, microorganisms, growing vegetation, and millions of visitors each year who come seeking life through the body of the water's high oxygen levels and special minerals. Indeed, the existence of fish in the Dead Sea, a reality that seems to contradict the laws of nature, has been explained by science and biblical prophecy alike. On the shores of the Dead Sea, more than 400 meters below sea level, are freshwater sinkholes created as a result of dropping water levels. These large sinkholes were discovered in 2011, carpeted with microorganisms on the sea's shores, fish, and algae. Okay, we're going to skip down to the part that I highlighted. Others have witnessed life in the Dead Sea, have similarly pointed to prophecy. In 2016, again, according to the dates that we saw, just like a year and a half before President Nelson becomes prophet, a breaking Israel news story about signs of the Dead Sea coming to life went viral, garnering more than 250,000 views. At the time, the presence of fish and other wildlife in the brackish waters of the sinkholes surrounding the Dead Sea went largely unnoticed by the scientific community. The phenomenon was brought to the public's attention by a remarkable young Jewish immigrant to Israel named Samantha Siegel, who visited the isolated location to meditate. Siegel is still connected to the site and continues to see prophecy unfolding in the brackish waters surrounding the Dead Sea. Quote, I still go to the Dead Sea every week. It is the best thing to keep me sane and connected to Hashem, which is the Lord. It is a glimpse into another world. I went there for Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. If I was going to be praying all day, I wanted it to be there where I could see Hashem in front of my eyes. End quote. Siegel's spirituality is rooted in nature. For her, the Dead Sea is the most powerful example of God's revelation. Quote, the Dead Sea is an opening into the earth. It is like Mama Earth breaking water before giving birth. You see, this is more pregnancy and giving birth imagery, which could be very significant symbolism in the lead up to the second coming. It looks so harsh right now, but that is just heaven being coated with a little bit of hell. When Mashiach, which is the Messiah, comes and the goodness of creation comes out, it will be pure heaven. Yep, it sure will. We're going to be in the millennium. It's going to be a paradisiacal world again. Now look at this. Look at what she says. If you have the eyes to see it, you can see it happening already. End quote. Eyes to see, ears to hear. And she has them. She has them. Okay. There's more here. You can read more. I'm going to move on. Prophecy appears. Rivers flow from Jerusalem into the Dead Sea. Here, so look at these images right here. Okay, look, it looks kind of like a flash flood. Rain fell for 2 weeks in Israel, breaking a 50-year record for the highest amount of precipitation in northern Israel on Thursday, according to the Israel Meteorological Service. A record was also broken in southern Israel, where, according to the Meteorological Service, 5 inches fell, breaking a 76-year-old record. According to the Bible, the landscape changed with the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, which turned the valley into a wasteland. The Bible also describes the area as fertile and well-watered in its narrative of Lot looking out onto the valley where the Dead Sea is now. Indeed, biblical prophecy also holds that water will flow east from Jerusalem into the Dead Sea, filling it up with fish and the surrounding desert with life. So, I know there's probably some of you that expect for literal water to literally come from underneath the temple, and I don't know, that may be the case, or it could simply be that it's coming out from under like if you trace it back to its source, maybe it's like well underground, but it's still like under the temple and just generally underneath Jerusalem. So I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like, but in my mind, uh, water coming from the east, from the direction of Jerusalem, I'm going to say this is probably what it looks like. It seems like this is probably like a one-time type of event, but this may be part of it. I don't know. Okay, secret river discovered connecting Jerusalem to Dead Sea. This one's by Eliyahu Berkowitz. Okay, there's a video. A previously unknown river in the Israeli wilderness was revealed to the world. Channel 11 Can News, Israel's public broadcasting channel, reported a 6-mile long river that wound its way through the deep desert canyons near the Dead Sea. The region is particularly arid and very little natural water exists there. The river is within the concession area of the Dead Sea Works and in his an Israeli potash plant in Sodom on the coast of the Dead Sea within private land where casual hikers are restricted. Okay, so you can read more about that if you want to. I've just got a couple more and then we'll be done. Now look at this. Dead Sea blooms floral wonderland for first time. Okay, okay, wait, I should have looked at the dates of these other ones. So, holy cow. Look at this. Look, oh my gosh, I just realized this right now. January 12th, 2020 is when this was reported. And going back to the timeline, President Nelson, second coming timeline, he became president on the 14th of January. 14th of January, 12th of January. Oh, this is 2020 though. But this is like 2 years after he became president of the church. So that's still pretty interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Is there anything going on? Let me look at the timeline. See, this is the benefit of having a timeline. Was there anything going on at that time? January 13th, that's when the COVID pandemic reached the United States. So, I don't know. I don't know if there's really a connection there. I don't know. It's interesting. Okay, Secret River. That was January 20th. Okay, nothing there. Okay, now we are in February 20th, 2020. Was there anything in February? No. But the next year is when the star Betelgeuse, which, Orion, there's Orion's belt, the 3 stars, but the rest of his body, there's like the 2 shoulder stars. The one to the left, as you're looking at Orion, the one to the left is Betelgeuse. And it dimmed from November 2019, and then the dimming stopped in March of 2020. So I feel like this was a sign in the heavens, okay? The dimming is over, it's been over, but it stopped in March. So I don't know really what to make of that, but there you go. Okay, so this happened just 1 month before the dimming stopped. Dead Sea blooms floral wonderland for the first time. Okay, and look at it here. Remember those other pictures that we were looking at of the Dead Sea. Okay, and then look at this. This is beautiful right here. This is gorgeous. And then compare that to these photos where it's just death. It's just everywhere, just dead. There's some life there, kind of dead. Definitely dead. Okay, so here you go. Look at this. Okay, in 2020, and this was just a couple months before the April 2020 General Conference, one of the more probably important general conferences that we've ever had. The Hosanna Shout, the new proclamation, the new church symbol, so on and so forth. Okay. So this happens just a couple months before that general conference. This isn't incredible by itself, but the fact that it's like coupled with that's fascinating. Okay, for those who have visited the lowest point on the face of the earth, Ezekiel's end of days prophecy of the Dead Sea coming to life seems impossible, yet recently scientists have been shocked to discover that the sinkholes appearing around the sea are quickly filling up with fish and other forms of life previously unseen in the inhospitable region. Here's another picture of it. I think it's basically the same. And now another rare life form has been witnessed across the northern shoreline of the Dead Sea. Colorful floral landscapes. Remember what we were saying about the northern shoreline? The northern shoreline in relation to Jerusalem, they're basically um, they're basically the same latitude, right? Right here. It's almost like directly across from Israel, just heading due east. You hit the north shoreline. So that's interesting. Okay. Thanks to Israel's record rains, the breathtaking flower trails have sprouted from the cliffs to the shoreline of the northern Dead Sea area. The 4 mile stretch from Kibbutz Kalia to Ovnat is alive with newly formed fields of annual species whose seeds can lay dormant in the desert for years until there is enough water for them to sprout. Known as the Dead Sea in English because of the hypersaline environment, and scarcity of aquatic life. Israeli photojournalist Noam Bedain of the Dead Sea Revival Project says that the term Dead Sea is a political term used mostly by the Romans, is a misnomer. The Dead Sea is anything but dead, he said, calling it the eighth wonder of the world. Uh, okay, and this is kind of a repeat now. Here's another. Here's another picture. Look at that. That is so cool. Let's see. I don't think I highlighted anything here. Here's an up close. Oh yeah, look at this right here. Okay, right after talking about Ezekiel 47, 8 through 9, he says, and this is Bedain, the curse is over, and this place and its minerals are now bringing life to people around the world. In his mind, and I don't doubt him, the curse is over. That's how they're viewing this. The curse is over. Okay, um, what next? Let's see. Dead Sea waters come alive. This is another story from 2016, February 22nd. And then here's another one. New waterfall bursts to life near Dead Sea. So, following hit. Now, this is, let's see, what's the date of this? I thought I saw it. Let me zoom out. No, there's no date. Okay, well, following heavy rains over the weekend, local photographer Alad Gilboa caught a waterfall coming to life in Israel's Judean desert. The waterfall took place at the Heifer intermittent stream near the Dead Sea. Gilboa says in the video, quote, "I have never seen the Heifer stream look like this in my life," end quote. The Heifer stream flows from the area of Yatta near Hebron into the Dead Sea. In the past, fragments of ancient biblical manuscripts were discovered near the Heifer stream, including portions of the Psalms and the Book of Numbers. Okay, and that is it. That is it. We have reached the end. So, going back to this, okay, and as you're reading um, teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith, I don't know if it's scriptural teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith. I feel like that's where, like, when because I think this is on archive.org, which is the online library, and that's how it is. But for some reason, the BYU Scripture Citation Index like shortens it to Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith, unless there's like different editions, and then maybe in a later edition they shortened it. I don't know. But anyway, when you're reading this, and if you're waiting for this to happen, this may have already happened. Okay, and it's probably going to continue. But as far as second coming prophecy fulfillment goes, this might be a check mark because it's begun. Okay. Um, because again, when it comes to prophecy, it's never really very clear exactly how things are supposed to happen, because you could read this as, well, the waters of the Dead Sea have to be healed, meaning the entire Dead Sea. Well, yeah, that could be. Or maybe that's not what he had in mind. Maybe it's not meant to be that specific. It may just be once you see the Dead Sea start to be healed, or once it's underway. I mean, who knows? As far as I'm concerned, I'll give you my opinion. I think that you could probably check this one off because most likely what's happening there is probably going to continue. And it's very timely. It is very, very timely. We've talked about how just pretty much since the time that President Nelson became president of the church, things have been escalating and hastening very quickly. Very quickly. There's been so many records broken. There's been so many signs in the heavens. We've seen a lot of signs in society. Here you have the George Floyd protests. You have these wars going on. Excuse me. Just a lot of things that we haven't seen before. The earth is clearly either broken or simply preparing itself for the second coming and to become a paradisiacal world. But things have just been crazy during his time. And especially, for me, especially in the things that they've been saying in general conference and area devotionals, in BYU Hawaii devotionals. I have this timeline here if you want to look it over. And you read from 2018 until present, and the things that they've been saying has just been stunning, to say the least. Eat your vitamin pills right here, right? The one that we've talked about a million times. You've asked us to get on the ark. President Nelson shows us Christ appearing to the Nephites after he calls on us to be the people of the second coming. Just on and on. Apostles talking about the quickening and being caught up in the air to meet the Lord when he comes. Just stunning things that I've never heard my entire life. I've been a lifelong member, never heard talk like this before. Never. Never. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.